You're in the rant wormhole where I rant about whatever my $15 a month plus patrons want me to rant about. You can get one if you are one. This one was requested by Kyle Satterstrom, who says to rant about Boxing Crippled Jesus. Boxing Crippled Jesus was a weird clusterfuck narrative that appeared in my life in January. So this, I'll give you just the full story so that anybody who's like, what in the hell is this, who's been seeing it from the sidelines can fully understand. So this all revolves around The Dick Show, which is a really big podcast that I'm a really big fan of, that I've been a guest on a few times over the last year and a half or so. The Dick Show has a sprawling, massive fan base full of weird people. And Dick loves to find the weirdest people he can and bring them onto his show through either bringing in their voicemails or having them call in and tell their stories, or just like, tracking down people who are known for interesting or weird shit on the internet, or for chronicling interesting or weird shit on the internet. So, one of the people who had left voicemails and called in was a guy who calls himself Crippled Jesus, who's a guy with, I think, cerebral palsy, who's in a wheelchair, who goes around. He told some story about wearing a Trump hat to some feminist group or something that was going on at his school, and it was a funny story, and he tells it in a funny way because he has a funny voice, and so they started having him having his voicemails or having him call in, semi regularly, and so he became entrenched in the Dick Show fan base. So, Dick Show has major communities on both Facebook and Reddit, which are completely disconnected from each other and have their own cultures entirely. And then it also has, a sizable number of people who have been on the show who just kind of orbit around it as their one, gambit of popularity on the internet, that they have either made art for the show, and a lot of these people are very talented and they're really good, but there's just a lot of people who just kind of hang around in the Discord chat of the show, and maybe talk to Dick more often than the average fan does. Just people who are very involved in the show itself. So those are all three different sort of communities, and then there's even a community around Dick himself, and the people who he actually flies out to LA to hang out with, who are a part of the show. There's plenty of people in the Dick Show fan base who are not part of any of these communities at all, who just listen to the podcast, maybe comment on Patreon or something, and do not involve themselves in any other avenue of this fan base. So Crippled Jesus falls into the category of a guy who's on the Reddit, who's probably on the Facebook, more likely on the Reddit, and who is, goes on the show semi-regularly and hangs out in the Discord that the show has for people who are going on. So, he's been calling in for a little while. Now, I've called in once because I met Dick and the other co-hosts at the first live show that they did, because they started doing live, theater shows, and I saw them in Pittsburgh. The other one. Philadelphia. I saw them in Philadelphia, and, we met them at the show, and I told them who I was, and they had heard of me, because, Dick will know if a guy with a big following follows him on Twitter and on social media and shit. So, he knew who I was, and he invited me to come on the show to talk about my experience at the live show, as, the first person who had been to one to talk about it. So I did that, and then I came on sometime later when I got into controversy on Twitter over the whole lolicon fiasco with Barack Obama. So I came on to talk about that. And from there was a famous soundbite of me talking about how I like to look at illustrations of little girls getting fucked. And it's, circulated a lot, especially amongst his fan base. So I came on a third time to talk about my dick. And that was recently. That was like a month ago or so. So this Crippled Jesus guy, he happened to be in the chat of the Discord when I was going on the show. I don't know if he was calling in on that episode as well or what. but like he was in there along with a couple of other people who were like mega young, mega idiotic, fucking autistic kids who like orbit around Dick, who he brings on the show because he thinks they're hilarious for getting into so many like mishaps. But they were just like spamming me in his chat, like talking shit about me and like calling me a pedophile and shit. And I was just calling them retarded, and like I was just waiting for my turn to get on the show. So I'm like sitting here just talking to the chat, like trying to start shit so I have something to do while I'm waiting, because I can't watch the show. I don't have access to the actual live stream. I only have access to to the Discord chat, and like I can listen to the call. Like I can listen to the show, but it sounds like shit through like headphones at like a low bit rate. So I'm always just like kind of tuned out, and like I just sit there and talk in the chat. So I'm talking like I was talking about Crippled Jesus, just saying like I was really disappointed in him because I thought he was funny on the show, and like I was telling him like, oh man, I'm really sad to realize that you're like one of these fucking idiots who's like going around calling me a pedophile and shit, and he was all like, he was in like troll mode. He was like obviously ready to go, like ready to like to just argue for the sake of it. So so sometime later he calls in to the Dick Show to just announce that he wants to challenge me to a boxing match out of nowhere. And like he makes it clear that he wants to fight me because I tell bad stories and that he doesn't like pedophiles. That's what he says. He says, I don't like pedophiles. So, like, Dick assumed that he wanted to fight me for that reason. So he contacts me on Twitter, like, he @messages me in the, like, announcement of the episode coming out that Crippled Jesus wants to box me over this. I haven't seen the episode yet. I didn't watch in. But, like, immediately I've got people, commenting and messaging me on Twitter asking me if I'm going to fight Crippled Jesus. So I immediately tweeted out, I'm not going to fight a crippled retard. And that was just that, And then he kept, like, trying to egg it on, trying to, like, make it happen still. And then May was like, fuck it, I'll box him. Because she was sick of people, calling me a pedophile and shit like that. And she was just like, I would love to fight this guy as a representative of all those people, and, like, it would be funny because I'm a woman and he's in a wheelchair, So I told Dick that this had been proposed, and he was like, all right, you got to come on the show and, propose this boxing match. So we go on with Crippled Jesus that Sunday, and Crippled Jesus backpedals and is like, oh, I didn't want to fight him for any moral reasons. I just don't like his stories that he tells on the show. And we're all like, oh, well, we thought that the whole point of this was that you wanted to fight him for some kind of moral crusade. And he's like, no, I just want to fight him. And, like, May was like, well, I'll still fight you. And he's like, well, I have no reason to fight you. You haven't told any bad stories on the podcast. And I was just like, well, why would I fight you over that? Like, that's retarded. Why would I fight? Like, why would I be driven to fight you? So it was very clear that he was just looking for an excuse to fight someone for attention. And he just thought it would be easy to get me because of the fact that I was, like, talking shit about him in the Discord, I guess. He just kind of moved on, I guess, once we had the conversation and it was clearly not going anywhere. So, yeah. It was a dumb fiasco that resolved hilariously on the Dick Show. So, there you go. That's your rant.